I can set it up on my backpack, so like it's a little. So I'm gonna give you a little funny slash kind of weird story time. Excuse me. Okay. So, um, I go to school, right? Yeah. So I was at school and I asked to the bathroom, and then I was like outside so I could still hear it in the room, and somebody else said, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And I started booking it. Like I feel bad for breaking the rule of like not running and stuff, but I was gone. Y'all don't know why, and I prefer just not to say, because, like, big bad, big. Yeah, I was being a big bad. Sorry, I forgot to say. Just kidding. Wait, what lesson was that? It was lesson. What lesson did we do? No, I forgot. But I forgot what lesson. Wait, we did like lessons 7 or 8. Yeah, 7 or 8. I don't remember. What lesson? I don't see. Okay, so okay, this is 5. That's 6. Did I do the wrong one? Oh, no. No, she said give it a 7, I think. Excuse me. Excuse me. I thought we did that. I'm not in. So, whoa, why is it skipping to 12? I don't know which lesson to do. No, I actually don't. I don't know. Also, red apple drink. No, I'm saying. Okay. Beep bag, beep bag, big bag, big bag, big bag. Why am I saying big bag? I don't know. I gotta say this story just in case nobody heard. So, I was in class, right? I asked to go to the bathroom. So I was still, when I went outside, I ended up getting in the, I was in the hallway. So, and I could still hear in the classroom. And one of the other students asked, can I go to the bathroom? I booked it. Like, I was gone, like, bye. I was like, gone. Oh, here's a little bit of mess. But, yeah. Bid bad, bid bad. Bid bad, bid bad. Bid bad, bid bad. I don't know what to say. I'm gonna go study. I have to look. Oh, I gotta look. And also, another story time that I wasn't really thinking about, so I actually forgot a little bit today. So, um, okay, so, we were at break, and then, we were at break, right? So I was like doing my homework and stuff because I didn't do it, and then, I just look up, and one of my crushes looked like they were like pointing at me and looking at me, and I'm like, but I didn't see. I was just like, I looked up and I looked back down. And I just did my work. Oops. Or I don't know, burps. as commander of the U.S. forces in March 1864. His willingness. I'm just gonna give y'all a history preview because I have to study it in. The tide of the war turns in 1863, bringing the war to the end. Yeah. Abraham Lincoln appointed Ulysses S. Grant as commander of all the U.S. forces in March 1864. His willingness to attack hard impressed President Lincoln. Lincoln said, "Of Grant, I can't spare this man. He fights." East battle. Each time Confederate lines held, but each time Grant quickly resumed the attack. Election of 1864 was a close race, but Abraham Lincoln won, fighting the Civil War 1863 to 1865. Under Grant's leadership, the Union Army was more aggressive and committed to destroy the South's will to fight. Grant appointed William T. Sherman to lead Southern. Grant. See, nobody wants to hear about history, but I need to learn it. Grant appointed William T. Sherman to lead a Southern campaign. Champagne or something. Sherman destroyed everything of value to the south of appointed or something slaves during his march to sea. Okay. Let's finish the work up. This. No. Because I don't know what lesson to do. Got so silent. But yeah. I need one more. I wonder if that's on. Sometimes it feels like I got a cavity right here because now that's it from where they filled the other cavity. Because when I drank the drink and I don't know if it's because it's cold. It's like kind of hurting my tooth, and it's cold. So I don't know. But yeah, those two story times. Let me know if you need to know the story time if you wasn't here. I don't really know. But yeah, because I was like, I don't even know. It was crazy. Also, I have a TikTok account called that.christian.girl138, I think. Bid bad. I grab my glasses. I'm out the door. I'm gonna hit P. Diddy. I'm back. And I forgot. Oh no, P. Diddy. But I don't know. I think I have eight followers on TikTok. Thank y'all for who's following and stuff, and for just being here. It is the right time I went, and it is like the beginning. Who wants me to read a book? Because I end up starting to read this and I didn't finish it or barely read anymore after that first or second day. So, okay. I'm gonna sing a song. Let me think. I know your second cousin's boyfriend's name. All your friends are on my For You page. But that ain't something I should say on the first day. I found your childhood home on Zoe.com. Saw your dad must have had to get a new job. LinkedIn said your stepmom was his boss at the last place. Oh, I've been practicing my poker face. So, you don't think that I'm insane when you find out, that I found out every ex you've ever had. How you met 'em, when you left 'em, and which one still wants you back. Something I swear I wasn't stalking, but a girl's gotta do a deep dive. Help it. I'm better than the FBI. Oh, I am better than the FBI. That's ridiculous. But I literally don't. Another one. Okay, so, okay. Home. Wait, no. That's not how you start it. Alabama, Arkansas, I do love my mom and pa, but not the way. Hold on, let me restart. Alabama, Arkansas, I do love my mom and pa. Holy moly, me oh my, you're the apple of my eye. God, I've never loved one like you. Home, let me come home. Home is whenever I'm with you. Home, let me come home. Home is whenever I'm with you. Home, let me come home. Home is whenever I'm with you. Next one. I'm trying to think. Trying to think. I was doing my homework, but I don't know what page to do. Next one. That's who I praise. Wait a minute. I wanna dance like David. I wanna fight like Paul. I wanna sing like Silas, tearing down the prison walls. I wanna face that fire. Won't burn me though. God's got my back, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. I wanna walk like Moses, right through the waves. One day I'll see this promised land, no longer slaves. But the fear is talking, no it can't take out my faith. I'm gonna praise, I'm gonna praise. I praise the heaven seated, undefeated, highest of names. Gonna praise, I'm gonna praise. I praise the heaven seated, undefeated, highest of names. That's who I praise. Hey, that's who I praise. That's who I praise. He is the Lion of Judah. He is the Lamb that was slain. The only one who's worthy, worthy, worthy of all of his names. That's who I praise. The Lord, oh my soul. Praise the Lord, oh my soul. Praise the Lord, oh my soul. I'm gonna go ahead and start reading the book. It's called Wonder. It's fine. But I'll probably have to turn it in soon, so that's why I'm trying to get to reading it. Because I already read. I've already read. I've read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wait, no, I haven't. I think I've read like 11. So who wants me to read this? It's really good. And at some point of the story, it kind of makes you want to cry. But, yeah, it's a story. It's really good. Bro, who keep leaving? I'm just going to start reading it, and if they get interested, they'll stay. Wonderland is the name. So good. I'm just going to restart because I want y'all to understand it. Okay, Mavis is the first chapter. Wait, yeah, Mavis. Mavis Jeter. Mavis. Mavis. Mavis Jeter sat on the bus stop bench beside her mother and whispered goodbye to Hadley, Georgia. She took a deep breath and let out a big, heavying sigh to send a signal to her mother that she was tired of saying goodbye. Why can't we stay here? She asked every time her mother announced that they were moving. Then her mother would explain how she was sick of podunk towns in God-forsaken places, how she needed a change of scenery, how she had a friend or a cousin or a boyfriend waiting somewhere else. This time they were leaving Hadley, Georgia, so her mother could work as a housekeeper for a rich family in Laundry, Alabama. Mavis let her mother have it. Mavis let out another heavying sigh that blew her tangled hair up off her forehead. Then she leaned forward and squinted down the road. When's the bus coming? She asked from the uptenth time. Soon, her mother said for the uptenth time. Sometimes Mavis wished she lived with her father in Tennessee instead of just visiting him every now and then. Her father stayed in one place, but then he lived with his mother, who disapproved of Mavis. That child runs wild, she complained right in front of Mavis. Not one lick of discipline for that so-called mother of hers, she'd say, as if Mavis were invisible and not sitting on the couch there beside her. Let's her run wild, she muttered, flinging her arm and shaking her head. Finally, the bus came roaring up the road. And the next thing Mavis knew, she was watching Hadley, Georgia, disappear outside the window. Goodbye, fourth grade, she whispered. Goodbye, fourth grade, she whispered, when the bus rambled past Hadley Elementary School. Have a nice summer, she added. It was only a few weeks ago that kids had hooted and hollered on the last day of school, but now the window shades were drawn in the empty classrooms. So long, Bilo. So long, Bilo, she whispered when they passed the grocery store where her mother had worked for a few months, until she came home one day and announced, I'm not asking paper or plastic ever again. Adios, best friend, Mavis whispered as they drove past Chandler Road, where her best friend, Dora Redburn, lived. And then she let out another big heavying sigh. Actually, now that she thought about it, Dora hadn't really been a best friend. She never saved Mavis a seat at lunch, and she had flat out lied about her birthday party. Maybe if the Jetters stayed in one place long enough, Mavis could have a real best friend. So as the bus turned into the interstate, Mavis said one final goodbye to Hadley, Georgia, and decided right then and there that Laundry, Alabama, she would have a real best friend. That in Laundry, Alabama, she would have a real best friend. Rose, the next chapter. Excuse me. Sometimes it seemed to Rose Tully. Sometimes it seemed to. I'm not on the right page. Yeah. Rose. Sometimes it seemed to Rose Tully that everything about her was wrong. It also seemed as if her mother reminded her of that nearly every minute of every day. Don't slouch, Rose, she'd say. You can't wear that, Rose. Stop slurping your soup, Rose. But even if Rose sat up straight, or changed her dress, or sipped her soup as daintily as could be, there would still be something wrong. And so it was that on a fine summer morning in Laundry, Alabama, with the sun streaming through the dining room windows overlooking the garden, Rose plucked raisins out of the oatmeal and waited for her mother to tell her what was wrong. Stop doing that, Rose, her mother said. Rose plopped a raisin into her mouth and glanced at her father. Sometimes he would say, "Oh, Cora, cut Rose some slack." But today he didn't. Today he gulped down his orange juice in a way that made Mrs. Tully squint. And then he grabbed his briefcase and hurried out of the door without so much as a goodbye. "Hurry up, Rose," Mrs. Tully said. "There's liable to be traffic on the interstate, and I'm not even sure where the bus station is." She took one last sip of her coffee and added, "I'm starting to have reservations about this Jeter woman if she doesn't even have a car. But she's bringing her daughter, right?" Rose said, "Unfortunately, yes," Mrs. Tully said. "I'm not sure this was one of my better ideas." Rose folded her Rose folded her napkin and placed it neatly next to her plate. She didn't say it out loud, but she was hoping that this Jeter woman's daughter was nicer than Amanda Sim. "Wait for me outside," Mrs. Tully snapped. Then she snapped her napkin off the table, gathered plates and bowls and juice glasses with a clatter, and disappeared through the swinging door into the kitchen. Excuse me. Leaving a cloud of discontent behind her. When Rose opened the front door, a wave of thick summer heat drifted in and mingled with the icy air conditioning in the foyer. The pleasantly mild days of May had given way to sultry days of some early June, the beginning of sure-to-be stifling Alabama summer. Rose's house was the biggest one in Magnolia Estates. Rose's house was the biggest one in Magnolia Estates. It had a winding driveway lined up with neatly trimmed boxwoods and a doorbell that chimed Beethoven's Ode to Joy. On each side of the door sat a concrete lion, its mouth open in a mighty roar. When the Tullys moved there 2 years ago, Rose had named them Pete and Larry. Out on the porch, Rose patted Pete and Larry on the tops of their head and savored the smell of freshly mown grass. Minory Tucker, the gardener, had already been there this morning, getting an early start like he always did to beat the midday heat. Because the Tullys' yard was so large, Minory came 3 days a week, trimming the boxwoods and weeding the gardens and making sure the azaleas were the exact same height the way Mrs. Tully liked them. Rosie ran to the end of the driveway and looked up the road toward the gatehouse. She wished she could visit Mr. Duffy instead of going to the bus station with her mother. She wished she could take some blackberries to try to cheer him up. She wished she could show him how good she had gotten at magic trick and at the magic trick he had taught her. But more than anything, she wished Mr. Stuffy Little Dog Queen hadn't died. Now, next chapter, Mavis. As they pulled into the bus station and Mavis's mother went out over all the rules. Never go into Tully's house without knocking first. Remember to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, because rich people like that. Don't say anything bad about the garage apartment where they would be living, even if it's a dump. And whatever you do, she said, jabbing a finger at Mavis, be nice to that lady's daughter. What's her name again? Rose. Rose, Mavis whispered to herself. That was a friendly-sounding name. On this day, she was not going to beat around the bush. Rose would be her best friend in Laundry, Alabama. Her mother took a tiny mirror out of her purse and checked her reflection, smoothing her hair and blowing herself a kiss. Pretty good looking, if I say so myself, she said, winking at Mavis and tossing the mirror back into her purse. Okay, May, let's do this. Then off she went, strutting up the aisle of the bus like a runway model, leaving Mavis to hurry after her. Rose. Rose climbed into the front seat of Tully's shiny black car and listened to her mother complain about the heat and about the bad haircut that Darlena Tillman had given her, about Mr. Tully, who never put gas in her car. As they made their way through Magnolia Estates, worry hung over Rose like a thundercloud. First, there was the worry about the vacant lost across the street. In the middle of the lot was a small gold sign with magnolia blossoms around the edges and a fancy black lettering that read, "Build your dream house here." Rose wished that people would stop building their dream homes in Magnolia Estates before long. There would be no more blackberries to eat, or wildflowers to pick, or trees to climb. In their place would be a big brick house. I'll read a little bit more and I'm stop. With tide lawns kept green all summer by visible sprinklers that came on in the wee hours of the morning. When they drove past Amanda Smith's house, Rose's cloud of worry began to grow bigger and darker. Her mother and Mrs. Sim were forever trying to get Rose and Amanda to play together again. But Rose and Amanda weren't very fond of each other anymore. They used to play together when they were in third grade, but now they were going into fifth grade, as if they had nothing in common. Amanda didn't like tap dancing, and Rose didn't like shopping at the mall. Amanda didn't like playing circus with Pete and Larry, the concert lions, and Rose didn't like sleepovers. But for Rose, the icing on the cake was the fact that Amanda didn't seem to like Mr. Duffy, the gatekeeper, anymore. She never actually said it, but Rose could tell. Amanda had started making faces when Mr. Duffy told stories about raising pigs in Vermont when he was young. She giggled in a not very nice way. He fell asleep in the gatehouse, and delivery truck drivers had to honk their horns, and she rolled her eyes when she pretended to take quarters out of their ears. Amanda never went up to the gatehouse anymore, which was fine with Rose. When the Tullys drove past the gatehouse of Magnolia Estates, Rose's dark cloud of worry drifted down, settled over her like a blanket of sadness. Mr. Duffy had been the gatekeeper ever since the Tullys had moved there 2 years ago. Over her like a blanket of like he kept a log who was allowed to come in and to Magnolia Estates and where they were going. A plumber for the Barclays on Dogwood Lane. The UPS man delivered packages to somebody on Rosewood Circle. Some ladies playing bridge every other Wednesday at Mrs. Larson's on Camilla Drive. Mr. Duffy had a way of making Rose feel better about things. He comforted her when she didn't want to go to sleepovers in the Magnolia Estates clubhouse. He knew just the right thing to say when she felt anxious about riding the school bus, and he had never made her feel bad if she didn't take the flower arranging classes or piano lessons like her mother wanted her to. Rose visited him nearly every day. She would tell him about school, and he would tell her about the giant catfish that had jumped clean out of his boat and back into the lake. She would show him the tap steps she learned in dancing school, and he would teach her a magic trick involving paper cups and buttons. And nearly every day, Mr. Duffy's little dog, Queenie, had waited patiently for Rose to drop graham cracker crumbs, or popcorn, or maybe even to toss her a piece of cheese. She would bark at the Clover's cat and take treats from the telephone repairman and waddled out the edge of the road to watch trucks bring bricks for somebody's dream house. But now Queenie was gone, and Mr. Duffy didn't know do magic tricks or play checkers anymore. He didn't play the kazoo with Rose again. "Oh, my darling," claimed time. And he didn't say, "Look out, catfish, here I come." When it was time to go home to his tiny trailer out by the lake. So as the Tully's shiny black car made its way up the interstate toward the bus station, Rose thought and thought and thought about how she should cheer up Mr. Duffy. Mavis. I'm amazed to where I stopped at. Mavis hopped on one foot around the bus station, careful to only land on the black squares of the linoleum floor. Linoleum floor. Linoleum? Mavis hopped on the front foot around the bus station, careful to only land on the black squares of the linoleum floor. If she touched the white square, something bad would happen. Like, maybe she would lose the heart-shaped good luck rock she had found in their yard in Georgia. Or her dad would change his mind about letting her spend Christmas with him in Tennessee. You're giving me a headache, her mother said, closing her eye and massaging her temples. When are they getting here? Mavis asked, hopping over the window and peering into the empty parking lot. Her mother rummaged through her purse and pulled out another pack of gum. She had been chewing gum constantly for the last 3 days. Mavis knew that what she really wanted was a cigarette, but Mrs. Tollett had been very clever about no smoking rule. High platinum people don't care if they're late, her mother said. How do you know that? High platinum. How do you know they're high platinum? Mavis asked. Her mother popped a piece of gum into her mouth and said, Believe me, I know. So why do you want to work for high platinum people? Mavis said. In case you haven't noticed, Miss May, her mother said, it takes money to get anywhere in this world. If high platinum people want to give me money for the pleasure of changing their streets when they're not even dirty or serving them sliced cantaloupe on china plates, I'm willing to give it a shot. Give it a shot? That had a temporary ring to it. Mavis had hoped that maybe this move to Alabama would be permanent, or at least till she finished 5th grade. So Mavis decided that she would have to make Rose her best friend right away. Just then, a shiny black car turned into the parking lot. A lady and a girl got out and walked over toward the station. The lady wore a flowered skirt and roughly white blouse. Tucked under her arm was a tiny purse, the same color as her shoes. Mavis was surprised to see that the girl wore a skirt, too. Why would a kid wear a skirt in the summertime? The girl's mousy brown hair was pulled neatly into a ponytail, tied with a purple ribbon. Mavis's mother had said the girl was the same age as she was. But this girl looked younger, short and skinny, and protectively running to keep up with her mother, who marched across the parking lot toward the door of the bus station. Mavis more quickly took the gum out of her mouth and stuck it under one of the plastic seats in the station. She smoothed her hair and brushed donut crumbs off her shorts. It reminded Mavis for the last time to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. Then she set a smile on her face and called out, Mrs. Tully, over here. Mavis watched the high platinum people make her way towards them. And it didn't take a genius to see that she was disappointed. Maybe it was her mother's shorts that might have been a little too short. Maybe it was Mavis's wild tangled hair that hadn't seen a comb since they'd left Hadley yesterday afternoon. Or maybe it was the smelly of greasy food and bus fumes that swirled around the dairy bus station. But whatever it was clear that Mrs. Tully was struggling to make her mouth smile as her eyes darted from Mavis to her mother to the battered suitcase at their feet. Rose, the woman tugged on her shorts and thrust her hand toward Mrs. Tully. I'm Luna, she said. Mrs. Tully set her mouth in a hard line and said, Mrs. Jeter seems more appropriate. Under the circumstances, well, okay, it's Mrs. Jeter. Rose stood behind her mother, feeling shy as usual. She wasn't very good at meeting new people, especially in front of her mother, who would always give her a nudge and tell her what to say. For heaven's sake, Rose, she's cold. Scold. Introduce yourself. Well, okay then, Miss Jeter, Mrs. Tully said. I hope your bus ride wasn't too bad. She gave her hair a pat and added, I imagine those buses can be pretty horrid. Mrs. Jeter shrugged and said, "It's not like I haven't put in my time on the bus. But avoid the seats in the back where the bathrooms are, if you know what I mean." She winked at Mrs. Tully, who cleared her throat and shifted her purse from one arm to another. Then, much to Rose's surprise, Miss Jeter's wild-haired daughter came hopping off over 1 foot and said, "I'm Mavis. You be my best friend, okay?" Rose looked around the bus station to see if there were any other kids there. Was the little girl talking to her? Was the girl talking to her best friend? In all her 10 years, she had never really had a best friend. Well, maybe one. Ida Sungen. She had lived next door to Tully's in Magnolia Estates when they first moved there. She had taught Rose how to make organ frogs and let Rose walk her dog named Frenchie, who wore a sweater and once bit Monterey Tucker, the gardener. She always made Rose laugh by doing the holy in the sprinkler or putting chopsticks in her nose. Then one day Ida had painting Rose fingernails bright red. The name of the color was Viva Voon, and Rose loved it. But Mrs. Tully called Ida's mother, and after that, Ida didn't seem to want to play much anymore. And then the Sagas moved to North Carolina, and that was the end of that. And now it seemed like the other girls in Magnolia Estates only wanted to shop at the mall with Amanda Sim and weren't interested in playing cards with Mr. Tuffy. So when Mavis Jeter said, you be my best friend, okay?" Rose felt a little wave of happiness work its way from her toes to the top of her head. "Okay," she said, feeling her cheeks burn. "Shall we go?" Mrs. Tully mentioned, toward the Jetter's beat-up bags before heading for the door to the parking lot. Mrs. Jeter snatched up a duct-tape suitcase and followed her. "Help me carry this, Mavis," said to Rose, packing up one end of an overstuffed duffel bag. Rose took the other end, and the girls hurried out the parking lot. Rose could hardly believe how good this day had turned out. Just yesterday, she had spent the afternoon sitting alone on the porch between Pete and Larry, and now she was carrying a duffel bag with her new best friend. While Mavis's mother chattered away in the front seat, telling Mrs. Tully about taking French cooking lessons at the YWCA with her cousin Elamira, who was in a Toyota commercial. Mavis told Rose about the places they'd lived, and one time we lived in a condo in Atlanta that had a jacuzzi in the bathroom. She said, but the landlord got mad because we had a dog. "What'd you do?" Rose asked. "Gave the dog to my Uncle Jerry. Once we lived with this crazy lady named Trixie. Lived with this crazy lady named Trixie, who saved everything," Mavis said. "Like used paper cups and empty soup cans." "Really? And one time we lived over at a Chinese restaurant and got free fortune cookies." I'm about to go sleep. Sorry. Love you guys.